The signals are no longer subtle. They are systemic. A major credit agency examined the trajectory of debt and political dysfunction, and consequently downgrades the US, the world's largest economy, not once, but multiple times. Currently, its labor market, the engine of domestic consumption, begins to falter. The unemployment rate climbs to heights not seen in years. Job growth stagnates, and revisions reveal that previous months were much weaker than reported. The consequence is not accidental, but diagnostic. It points to an economy where the cost of serving a massive debt burden is killing future flexibility, where the tools used to project strengths like tariffs are now contributing to internal economic disaster. The response of the orange fascist gangster addressing the nation is telling. A narrative insisting the war on high prices is won, even as inflation persists above target and the cost of essentials remaining painfully elevated. What the disaster president is doing is the equivalent of telling his voters they are all idiots. A total oxymoron, if I have ever seen one. However, this gap between declared victory and tangible reality is itself a huge data point. It reveals an administration under pressure, needing a political win, a political something, precisely because the economic foundation is crumbling. Today, we examine this shift in three clear phases. First, the pivot, leading to reliable dividends. Second, the battleground, how Canada has to decode the CUSMA gambit. And third, the sovereign outcome, how Canada forging the North Atlantic path. So, let's get right into it. In times of uncertainty, capital and talent seeks calm. They gravitate towards the predictable, the well-groomed, the stable. It is sheer pragmatic, while the US content with a damaged credit reputation, Canada retains a top-tier standing. This rating is a signal to the world. Here is a nation where the rule of law is consistent, where fiscal policy is transparent, and where political upheaval does not dictate economic policy. This stability is Canada's strategic asset. It attracts investment, not as speculative gambit, but as a long-term placement of trust. We see it in the multi-billion-dollar commitments to data centers and critical mineral processing plants. Those are investments that span decades and require faith in the host nation's enduring frameworks. But this Canadian asset extends beyond balance sheets. It resonates with the public. When Canadian consumers facing persistent US trade aggression consciously choose local products, or when they reconsider cross-border traveling, they are executing a quiet, collective form of economic diplomacy. This consumer-led pushback, this preference for the homegrown registers. It translates into lost sales for US border states, anxious calls from business chambers, and a tangible demonstration that Canadian markets are a privilege of partnership, not a right of the big, the orange, the ugly. Canada is learning that in the 21st century, sovereignty is defended not just at the negotiation table, but at the supermarket shelves and the online checkouts. Of course, this brings us to the looming high-stakes review of CUSMA. The US has laid its demands on the table with unusual clarity. They are multifaceted and profound. They are prerequisites to start the negotiations. We give, they listen. No way, I say. So, what is the orange convicted felon want up front? Well, they demand the end of provincial restrictions on American alcohol. Further dismantling of Canada's supply management dairy sector, something that is not even an issue for the US, as it has never affected US trades. They target recent legislations designed to travel the digital playing field for Canadian youth and culture. Canadian legislations opposed by US tech giants. Those are legislations Canadian media has to adhere to, where the US demands that US media can do whatever they want. Fox News misleading the public? Anyone? They insist on piercing provincial procurement frameworks, seeking access to sub-national infrastructure projects. This is not a simple list of trade irritants. It is a strategy of diminishing Canadian economic sovereignty. Again and again and again. Each demand targets a deliberate policy. Policies made to protect cultural identities, stabilize agriculture communities, foster domestic media, and empower local governments. For the American crime family's disaster administration, securing those concessions is framed as a political necessity, a win to offset domestic economic anxiety. But Canada enters this negotiation from a different position. The old fear that no deal means economic catastrophe has been recalibrated. The experience of recent years has shown that resilience is possible. Diversification is underway. The threat of the agreement's collapse is no longer an apocalyptic scenario. It is a calculable risk, and that must be weighed against the far greater cost of surrendering core levers of national policy. The negotiation, therefore, becomes a definitive test. It will answer a fundamental question. Has Canada's period of strategic hedging and internal fortification given it the strength to say no? The true opportunity created by this pressure lies not in a slightly better continental deal, but in the clear acceleration of a sovereign Canadian path. A firm stance at the CUSMA table does more than protect dairy farmers or cultural policy. It sends a definitive message to the US and the world. Canada is a mature strategic actor that negotiates from principle, not from panic. This credibility is our ultimate currency. It makes the vision of a deeply integrated Canada-EU partnership a true North Atlantic bloc, not a theoretical alternative but a logic and accelerated reality. For EU nations, a quality vary of transactional politics and seeking reliable partners for energy, critical minerals, and technology, a confident Canada is the most attractive North American partner possible. This is the strategic outcome. US instability has identified Canada's future. It is a future built on multiple pillars of partnership with a diversified economy and the demonstrated courage to defend its own policy space. The relationship with the US will endure, but its nature is changing, from one of defense to one of mutual respect, defined, sovereign independence. The political landscape has shifted. The old dynamics of pressure and compliance are breaking down. Canada has, through a mix of necessity, steadiness, and public resolve, built a stronger hand. The final strategic question is this. As we approach this defining negotiation, Should Canada's primary objective be to preserve the Continental Agreement at all costs, or to use this moment and its hard-earned leverage to cement its independent economic and strategic alliance with partners across the Atlantic? Please let me know in the comments below. If this video gave you value, I would love it if you subscribe. We're trying to get to 10,000 subscribers by Christmas. So please do support that goal if you are curious. And if you like this channel's deep dives, click the like button and ring the bell so you won't miss my next one. Thanks for watching. I'm Wilfried Lehmkuhler from Europe Curious.